And I've just been doing a funny old reading for the live stream. This is what I got. That's me. That's you. That's the live stream. Is everything okay? There seems to be kind of like a shadow. I guess that's for the chat, right? Okay. Me, you, and the live stream. So it looks like I'm ready for holiday, which is quite true. But in the audience, it looks like there's someone who's unhappy, or there will be someone who's unhappy today. Queen of Cups, the happy person. And the live stream has an 8 of Cups on it. Someone turning their back and walking away. So I'm worried that someone's going to unsubscribe. But I think I'm being silly here. If it is you who's unhappy and is thinking of unsubscribing, tell me, and we'll see what we can do. So I want to know, is the chat turned on? Am I able to see you? If you're watching, could you just say hi if you're happy with that? Saskia says hi, Robert and everyone. Okay, great. So I can see the chat, so everything's fine. Hi, Saskia. My news is a deck arrived in the post, and I've been saving up for this deck for some time. It's the famous hoi polloi deck. High talk sentences. And this is a strange and wacky thing from, I think, 1972. And it's from the golden age of sort of people being playing a bit fast and loose with copyright. Hi, Nick. Hi, Anna. And so as you can see, it's a recoloring of the Rider-Waite-Smith. It was never reissued. There's no facsimile of it. There's a thing called the Moon Baby, which is a kind of contemporary, 21st century copy of it. But this is the real thing. And as you can see, the thing about the 70s is that the 70s is a real mishmash of styles. You've got your, what can we say? In some cases, it's kind of Art Deco sort of influence, and you've got these large areas of white, which is also quite 70s. It's a bit like the Aquarian, but weirdly, you've got this Gothic lettering here, which is very, you would say very un-70s. So the Moon Baby Tarot, which is a 21st century copy of this, makes everything extra 70s and gives you a kind of a 70s typeface across here. This deck was made by a toy company, like a board game company. And you have the feeling that it was made quite quickly. I mean, if you look at the way it's colored in, it does look a bit hasty, doesn't it? The line work has been sort of traced over and simplified a little bit. The details have been simplified. That there's no bunny for the Queen of Pentacles. That's a bit simplified, isn't it? There's a lot of white in the background, and I quite like white in the background. But the bedspread has been simplified. There's no astrological signs on the bedspread. There's no roses. It's really nice to be working with a deck, from the 70s that has that history. That's really charming, and that's really thrilling in a way. And you get a completely different kind of cardstock. It's a bit yellowed with age. I think this is meant to be white, isn't it? And you can clearly see, compared to my t-shirt, it's not white anymore. And it's odd. I have mixed feelings about it. I've always loved seeing it online, and I'm very glad that it's passing through my hands. It's in my possession now. It may not be in my possession for everywhere for forever. I may not keep it. Um, there's something a bit strange about it. I feel that. Wonder if I can. Let's see if I can compare two cards. Just a second, everyone. Did we have the star? I think we did. I mean, it's all very well, isn't it, to make things 70s-y and simplified and a bit like a disco design. And it's very lovable, but I'm not quite sure I can actually work it into my practice. I'm not quite sure you know what? I'm not quite sure I approve in a funny sort of way. Of course, I don't exactly disapprove, but maybe it's because of the maybe it's because it is very old and faded, this copy, and it feels like an old toy from my childhood that's been in a box for like 50 years and is kind of like crumbling away. And there's something a little bit sad about it. I think I find it oversimplified, but we don't have to decide now, do we? We can just sort of decide later whether we love it or not. I mean, I have this thing that at the back of my mind, I'm always looking for the perfect deck. Does anyone else have that? I spent about 2 weeks online looking for any kind of Marseille pip deck that I felt I could actually, wrap my mind around, because I've been using RWS for so long. I find the challenge of Marseille. It's like it's not my mother tongue, and so I've been looking for Marseille decks that I could sort of incorporate into my practice. And there's a guy called Midnight Tarot. I think he is Romanian, and he has a number of decks, and they are in a very cool contemporary version of a Marseille style, a bit between cartoons and Marseille decks. I think one of his decks is called Hidden Stories or Untold Stories or something. I might get one of those decks and I'll show you it. And so he has done that thing that you sometimes get people trying to do, where the person does a pip deck, but the pips are not exactly Marseille, and they're in certain shapes and configurations that refer to RWS. In other words, they're not scenes of life, but you might have the 8 cups stacked like that. So his deck's a bit like that, but I'm not quite sure, and I don't know how much it costs. Talk Sentences says, all of this is reminding me that I found my original RWS blue box when tidying out the box room. I wanted to work out how ancient it was, and it appears to be the last Rider printing from 76 to 77. Wow. Wow, that is amazing, yeah. There's something about that 70s period. There was a Japanese recoloring of the RWS, And by the way, I am going to be doing some freestyle reading in the course of this this live stream. I'm going to be drawing cards at random while I talk to you. I've just got a Seven of Swords. There's something about okay, we're talking about the 70s. Okay, so the 70s were a bit tricksy, weren't they? A bit okay, and there were people sort of oh yeah, I wanted to talk about the stealing of copyright, because the US game systems company said that they had the copyright to the RWS. If you go online and research this, you find that that's maybe not true. It's contested. And they probably didn't actually own the full copyright to the pictures. They may only have owned, the copyright to the back. And eventually, as you know, Lo Scarabeo in Italy challenged them and wanted to release copies of the RWS, and they must have succeeded in court, because Lo Scarabeo has been publishing the RWS for many years now. But there was a time before US game systems were, what's the word? Insisting upon their copyright. And there were a number of decks that came out in the 70s that were sort of a bit piratical. So there was this one. And there was the Albano Weight, I suppose, which we all know and love, that rather highly colored one, which US game systems now puts out themselves in facsimile edition. And there's also one that came out in Japan. It's called the Jupiter King tarot, which is really, really pretty. And Two of Battens. So they really got on top of it, didn't they? The Jupiter King people, and it's sort of redrawn, but very delicately redrawn, and there are pink skies and scarlet red skies and sort of turquoise skies and things, and some of the perspectives are slightly changed, but the line work is very like the RWS. So it's one of the most exquisite ones, and that's right. There's a company called Tarot Collectibles. And they have just brought out two facsimiles of that Jupiter King tarot from Japan. And one's a facsimile of the 1975 edition, and one's a facsimile of the 1989 edition. And both of them are really great, and costs about $65. And I think that could be a nice thing to look at. Probably got it in 82 or 83. So just in case you've just joined us, we got the reading for the live stream. That's me, Seven of Pentacles, probably in need of a holiday and planning on going to London soon. That's you, a reversed Queen of Cups. So I think there's someone in the audience this evening who's not happy. So if it's you, tell me, and if you want a reading, let me know. And the live stream, Eight of Cups. I was joking earlier on that I'm worried that someone's going to unsubscribe and do the Eight of Cups. Again, if that's you, if you're thinking of that, tell me what the problem is, and we'll see if we can rectify it. If anyone wants a reading, I do short fortune cookie style readings during these live streams. I usually do 3 in the course of the hour. 1 at 1:15, which is in 2 minutes time, 1 at 1/2, and 1 at 45 minutes past the hour, so that I don't get confused. So let me know and I'll put you on the list. Radran 108 says, I've been looking for the perfect aged vintage effect deck. I have the Radiant Wise Spirits Tarot Mini, not glossy. But I wonder about Pam's Vintage. Did you ask me about Pam's Vintage in a comment this week, someone messaged me in the comment this week and asked me about, that was the deck that I used for my lantern spread. Pam's Vintage is one of those, again, slightly under the radar decks. Someone who hasn't been worrying too much about the copyright issue. Yes, that was you. Oh, hello, Rodrin 108. Nice to hear from you. And I don't know how I came across it. A few years ago, I was really manically Googling around and looking for decks and things. So if you Google Pam's Vintage, it might come up. It was a deck that a designer had done and uploaded to one of those print to order companies. I think it was called Make Playing Cards. And sorry, my attention was distracted. So if that designer is still selling it through Make Playing Cards, or it could have been one of the others, but it's probably Make Playing Cards, then you'll still be able to get it, and you just get it directly from the printer. If you're really desperate, I could have a look at the box and see what the name of the designer was, but I think it should just Google up. Greetings from your colleague Arturo in Mexico City. Hello, Arturo. And CS102 used the lantern spread. I'm really pleased that the lantern spread is spreading. Anna Heaton, I found a 1986 copy of RWS on a flea market. That is the dream, isn't it? To go to a flea market and find a really nice old deck. Thrilled and so happy about it. Oh, so Rajan, you found it on an obscure website. Well, that's probably, yeah, if you found it, you found it. Then you can track it down. Will you be able to buy one, do you think? It's the Pam's Vintage deck is quite dark. The person who made it has put a kind of like a tea stain, antique filter over every single card. So you've got every card looks like it's 5,000 years old, which is quite funny, and it can be nice to work with. It's nice to work with, I think, in daylight. If it's in the evening and the light's a bit low, it can be a bit dark. Luhi, I'm working on the analysis of the Book of Arthur White, Pictorial Key of the Tarot. Oh, that's a difficult book. I think A.E. Waite was, when he wrote that book, he wasn't quite sure in his mind how many of the Golden Dawn's so-called secrets or theories or ideas about esoterica he wanted to publish. Because until that time, the Golden Dawn were keeping everything very much to themselves, their ideas. And then, as you probably know, Crowley, I think, published a lot of Golden Dawn secrets. And then, then soon afterwards, the cat was out of the bag and esoterica stopped being secret for the most part. I find Pictorial Key to the Tarot quite difficult, actually. Rodrin says, Queen of Cups is always my chosen significator, and I am feeling a bit drained at the moment. Oh, so Rodrin, maybe that is you. CS12 says, the lantern spread is a very intimate spread. Angori says, hi. Okay. Rodrin 108, do you have any particular question? Or do you want it to just to be, a cold reading straight out of the blue without telling me anything? CS102, what card would you suggest with negative habits like addictions? CS102, can you rephrase that question? What card would I suggest to mean negative habits like addictions? Well, I think that is classically the devil. Yes, that's true. Okay, Rodron 108, just a general impression. Let's do some cards for Rodron. This will just be a 5-minute thing. Rodron 108. Let's use the Morgan Greer. Please give us a general impression for Rodron 108. Let's do themes and advice. Rodron 108, could you tell me which pile you'd like me to use? That's the left, that's the middle, and that's the right. I haven't got the delay function on today, so you should be able just to tell me. Middle, please. That's good. Okay, well, you do need, this is the issue. If you're drained, you do need to kind of like get out and play, I think. Or at least there's some issue around that. Either it might be that you can't stop, you can't relax, you can't give in to the beginning of summer, that if you're in the Northern Hemisphere. I sometimes find that summer comes and I can't accept that it's here and that it's time for me to let go slightly and it's time for me to go out and just be and just sort of enjoy life. We've got some interesting advice cards. We've got a reversed 5 of Swords and a reversed 6 of Swords, which suggests to me that you don't actually have any major rethinking to do, you know. It's not like you've got anything major to get over or to heal, and it's not like you need to escape from your whole life. And the other advice one was reverse star. It's you shouldn't feel under pressure to have the perfect idea or the perfect inspiration. So it's really a sort of a letting go, and there is a feeling of just allowing yourself, don't just allow the situation not to be serious and not to be deep. So that's the issue, this thing about can you or can you not wrap your mind around just fun and celebration and peace. Okay. That was a short reading for you, Rodron 108. I hope it was helpful. Take a deep breath to go back to the live stream. Rodron 108 says, very helpful, thank you. Welcome. Happiness isn't always in our own hands, is it? Sometimes it's around the corner. I've been encouraged to give in to the idea of freestyle reading. I'm obsessed with spreads and with structures because I'm worried if there isn't enough structure, I won't be able to function properly. But I've got this deck here to one side of the table, and every now and then I'm going to be putting a card and commenting on it just to keep things sort of floating. Has anyone else in the last week or so come across any interesting decks? And does anyone have any advice to me as a person who is like really, really, really kind of like locked into the RWS system, but I would like to find either a hybrid or some kind of modified Marseille deck that I might be able to work with. I've even thought of getting a Marseille deck and then, you know, just using half the pip cards, like 1 to 5, because I can kind of handle that amount of confusion in my mind. I especially don't like the high numbers in Marseille. I don't like the 8, 9, 10 of swords and battens. I don't like it that it's so sort of interlocked. It feels very uncomfortable to me. And also, unless I look at the number, I can't, when I see it, when it hits the table, I can't tell the difference between an 8 or 9 or a 10. So I've got to look around for the number, and, you know, whereas, oh, here we are. So I get a bit belligerent and cross. Whereas with, you know, with the Rider-Waite Smith, I've got a rainbow, haven't I? So, yeah. I have for a time been looking for hybrid decks, and I've done a video about it. But one of them, was the Pagan Otherworlds, which I couldn't even begin to read with, so I got rid of it. Saskia Handy says, I think pips are confusing and actually rather boring to look at. Well, Saskia, let's stick together on that point. I suppose, in a sense, my channel is a channel for people who like RWS. So we might all be on a similar journey here. Rodran here says, this is still RWS, but I'm wondering if you have the Tarot of the New Vision, aka Tarot vice versa, before Tarot and after Tarot decks. Not as principal cards for reading, but supplementary. Oh, that's interesting. I've seen those decks. I've seen before Tarot, and I think I've seen Tarot of the New Vision, and I've probably seen after Tarot. And I've thought to myself, I can't quite work out how I would work with those, but you're telling me that they might be supplementary. That's quite interesting. That's quite interesting. I mean, as I get older, ladies and gentlemen, I am very interested in mixing decks and finding new ways to do that. But there has to be some kind of structure. And you might have seen in my monthly readings, I have 3 questions and 3 answers, or however many there are. And so for the questions, I often use major arcana, court cards, and aces only. So I could use a Marseille deck for the questions. And the thing about Marseille is there's so much creativity has gone into the creating of Marseille decks that it's just such a rich field when they're doing their majors and their court cards. Let's see. Talk sentences. I did see an interesting Lenormand online, but it was just something that popped into my social media feed, so I didn't pay much attention. Oh, you didn't note down the name. Maybe it's lost. Screenshot next time. Anna Heaton. Funny, I mean, what a coincidence. I really enjoy my Tarot de Marseille right now. Looking for also enjoying reading Tarot de Marseille as well as RWS. Love this live and thank you for this and your channel. Oh, thank you. Thank you for making me feel appreciated. CS102, interesting. My mum used the 33 playing cards, Court plus Pips, 10, 9, 8, 7, and Joker. She used the high numbers. That's super interesting. I think there are ways of dividing the deck up, aren't there, for different games? And so there's the I don't know, there's the piquet deck or the this deck or the that deck. I've been looking at a lot of historical decks online recently, and some of them have sort of 60 cards, some of them have 40 cards. Some of them have 90. There's is it the Minchiati? It has 90. And it actually, finally, if you get yourself the Minchiati deck, you will get a Prudence card, which none of us have. Roger 108. Some of them are helpful as additional perspective on a pivotal card in a reading. But in my humble opinion, some of the scenes are totally off or banal. Well, didn't want to say. While others, e.g. High Priestess, vice versa, are great. Okay. Have you seen Pixie's Lenormand? Very similar to Canwell Oracle, but much cheaper. Oh, that's very, very interesting. I mean, the thing is, Roger 108, I tend not to buy cards outside of the tarot genre, unless if it was like Minchiati, you can use Minchiati as tarot. And so people have given me Oracle decks. The only Oracle deck I think I've ever bought was the Canwell Oracle. I once bought a weird, what was it? I Ching Oracle, which I never used really. I used for a bit. And I love the Canwell Oracle because it's so beautifully done. And I saw the artist's website and I thought it was all very heartwarming and touching and so forth. I haven't really got drawn into using the Canwell Oracle. I like to have little bits of madness in my monthly readings, which I do for you guys, for the audience, for YouTube, my video readings every month. So I've used the Canwell Oracle for that, and I've used other weird and wacky things. But for my own personal practice, I actually find I don't use the Canwell Oracle. And as for Lenormand, I'm a bit... what's the word? I'm a bit of a pope about the Lenormand, whatever that means. In other words, the Pope has very strict ideas about what you can do and what you can't do. And I'm a bit of a kind of control freak. And I've spent so much of my life acquainting myself with tarot and becoming fluent with tarot that the idea of learning another language of divination is just a little bit, I mean, I think I'm too old. Sorry. Pixie's Lenormand is also in Pamela's style. I get it, yes, because Pamela was Pixie, wasn't it? Quite wonderful. Very resonant with RWS. And Arcane Tarot says, butterfly, flower, flower. Thank you very much for the flowers. We had some amazing... I've been living in Germany so long, I've forgotten what these are called in English. They're called Pfingstrosen in German. How embarrassing. Does anyone know what this is? It's a flower that comes out in May, just before roses. And it's got these, it starts off as a globe. Peony. It's peony. And the two big ones that are absolutely amazing. This is open right up. And it's got hundreds of little, slightly sharp petals. And absolutely sensational. They cost sort of €2 each. And they completely improve your life. Aphrodite, says CS102. So that's my flower for you guys. And the King of Pentacles says, "Get on with the live stream." This is me doing freestyle reading, which I don't usually do. So tell me how I'm doing. So we were talking about decks. There is a place in Milan called Il Meneghello I discovered in the past 2 weeks. And they make, they basically issue beautifully done facsimiles of historical decks, including right up to the 70s and 80s, I think. And I'm not sure if they do any new decks, but they've got some lovely things. Anna Heaton said, "I like what you said about using 1 to 5 of Marseille, if that works for you. Everything is okay, right? Fits freestyle reading to me." Yes, maybe I'll do that. I mean, the thing is that, here's the thing. If I have a Marseille deck, for example, I love the aces. I love the aces. They are just beautiful. The twos are beautiful as well. And, you know, here's I have a theory about the human mind. I think that the lower numbers are, I mean, you know, we're adults, aren't we? And we've been to school, we've read books, and most of us can count to 10. We can all count to 10. That's not up for discussion. But I think the lower numbers are more easily sort of receivable by the mind, and the symbolic resonances of the lower numbers are, in a sense, less contested. Like, for example, everyone knows the symbolic meaning of 1. It means unity. 2 means duality. 3 means movement. 4 means stability. No one would ever kind of like dispute that. When you get to 5, okay, so this becomes some kind of pivotal number. And indeed, they say that the mind, when you get to 5, you see 5 as 3 plus 2. You don't really see it as 5. Then when you get to 6, is there any real agreement about the symbolic meaning of 6? So, I mean, obviously we learn these systems and the symbolic meanings are great and the systems are great. But I think what I'm saying is that if I don't have pictures to help me, I feel comfortable with pips up to about 4, you know. I'm super comfortable with the aces, love them. Super comfortable with 2s, love the 2s. And I can just about stretch it to the 3s and the 4s, you know. I think if I saw 3 of swords in a Marseille style deck, I would be able to tell you, sweetie, 3 of swords, difficult conversation coming up. But if I saw something like that with 8 or 9 or 10 swords or battens going all over the place, I wouldn't be quite so quick with my intuitive response. Right, and my freestyle tarot says, yeah, there's no need to struggle. Saskia says, I have an Il Meneghello deck. The La Corte dei Tarocchi, just lovely. Wow. And Saskia, did you clip the corners, or does it have sharp corners, and have you left them sharp? And if you use it, do those sharp corners become ragged and do they fray? Because I haven't got a Meneghello deck yet, and I'm a bit worried. My worry is that I'll get one day, and it'll be a lovely, lovely deck, like the is it called the something like Niobe, that fantastically rich one from 1895, which they have coloured in, and it'll come with sharp square corners, won't it? And I will not be able to resist the temptation to get out my corner clipper, which would be a terrible, terrible thing to do. It would be a sacrilege, won't it? It'll be a desecration, but I might do it. CS102 says, does it have to do with 1 to 5? Just 20 cards, not the whole deck. No, what I was saying was that I would use all the major arcana and all the court cards, and then maybe some of the minors if I was using a Tarot de Marseille. I actually bought a Tarot de Marseille the other day. It was the Lo Scarabeo Mini Classic Tarot, and I've put it straight on eBay, because because Lo Scarabeo have they've squashed the images, because the images of classic tarot are quite long and thin, and you know Lo Scarabeo, they're a funny lot. They're lovely, but they're funny, and their cards are very much like that shape. In fact, their minis are maybe even shorter and fatter. And so to make this lovely 19th century tarot fit on their shape, they've squashed the images. They've squashed them, and everyone, sorry, it's like Hall of Mirrors. Everyone looks like a hobbit, and I'm not having it. Anna Heaton, I love the way you think and feel about it intuitively. Oh, thank you. The numbers, I mean. Saskia says it does have sharp corners. I haven't touched them as I'm terrified of making a mess of the deck. I agree, and these things, they sometimes slip, don't they? Because you can't quite see what you're doing. I had some business cards made for the first time in about 20 years, and they had sharp corners, and I mean, each one is worth about half a cent. And so I've been clipping them with this thing, and it's really good. But I agree. I think if I got a Meneghello deck, I would have great problems. Some of their decks are not super expensive. I mean, they seem to range between 45 euros and like 150 or something. I don't know how they figure that. But Saskia, I don't know if you're using it for reading. This is a serious question, not joking about. And I don't know whether those decks are designed for reading, but the question is, if you read with them, what's going to happen to those sharp corners? What's going to happen, Aren't they going to fray? And like, for example, on the website of not Make Playing Cards, Tarot Collectibles, who make the reprints of the wonderful Japanese JK Tarot, they say, our tarot cards are very high quality. You must never riffle shuffle with them. I'm thinking, excuse me, I've had the Aquarian Tarot for 40 or 50 years now, and I've been riffle shuffling with that, and it's fine. So what I'm saying is, these card production companies, they make us these cards that are very, very exquisite, and everything's lovely, and we appreciate that. But then, is this a deck we can actually use? Does it have utility? Or do we have to treat it with kid gloves and keep it in a glass case and never use it? Which I think is a pity. Anna Heaton says, could 5 be completion for you? I mean, no, Anna, I mean, the thing is that I accept that 5 has numerological values in different systems, and I accept the meanings that for example, Pamela was working with, like this, Pamela's 5s tend to be a bit of a hiccup, don't they? 5 of batons, struggle, 5 of swords, defeat, 5 of coins, poverty, 5 of cups, disappointment. I mean, they're all a bit negative for Pam, and I'm fine with that. It's just what I was more talking about was that my mind needs help with remembering the meanings of the higher numbers. And that's why when people say, oh, Tarot de Marseille is so easy, you just have to remember 10 numerological readings, and then you give each of those 10 a shading with depending on what suit it's in. I just my eyes glaze over, and I think to myself, I cannot imagine how that works. I cannot wrap my mind around it. Tarot of the Master is lovely, if only for the major arcana. Okay, well, I take notes, guys. When you guys recommend things, I always go to my computer afterwards and check them out. So I will check that out. Saskia says, I must admit, I don't read with it. I just had to have it and love looking at the images. You know, some people, I think there are people in the world who've got quite a lot of money, and they have tarot channels. And I mean, I'm not destitute. I can pay my supermarket bills, but I don't have enough money to throw around with gay abandon, ladies and gentlemen. But some tarot collectors or tarot commentators on YouTube, and I'm very grateful for this, they will show us all their decks, and they'll have like lots of Il Meneghello decks, and they have lots of decks. And there's a lovely lady called Sasha, and she went to Japan and she bought some decks and brought them all back, and now we can see her decks. And some of these people, and I'm not accusing that lady of that, but some of these people say, yes, I bought 2 copies. I bought 2 copies of this very expensive deck, and one of them I'm going to read with, and one of them I'm going to keep in a glass case, in its wrapping, so that it's absolutely pristine and beautiful forever. And I think, okay, I can't afford that. We don't have to force ourselves to be more financially powerful than we are, do we? Anna Heaton. I like Dame Fortune's Wheel Tarot. Still in print and partially scenic, around €20, I believe. Well, I know of that one. As my mother used to say, I'm still here, when she was on the telephone. I'm still here. Look, I've got the book. And very nice it is too. Here we go, a recommendation for all you ladies and gentlemen. It's Paul Hewson's book that goes with his deck, Dame Fortune's Wheel Tarot. Now, I didn't get this tarot. I found this book extremely good for research because he's so good about the court cards. And his Major Arcana are fine. I think the thing about his queens, kings, and jacks all have a mythological or historical name on them. So we got Knave of Coins there, Lancelot, and these are traditional. They come from real European tradition. Knight of Coins doesn't get one because the knights are the newcomers. Queen of Coins gets Argene, whoever Argene is, but you will find out in the paragraph. And the King of Coins gets Alexander. So there's 12 names associated with the court cards. The knights don't get associations, but because what he's doing is he's taking in the associations that attached to the playing cards in Europe during the Middle Ages or during the early Renaissance, and he attaches those to the kings, queens, and pages. So it's really great. I mean, the thing about him is that he reimagines the scenic cards, and some of them are similar to Pamela Colman Smith, and some of them aren't. They're absolutely lovely, but I know that I wouldn't be able to read with this deck because it would confuse me. I would get confused. There's the 7 of Coins. But Paul Hewson, I'm glad this came up because Paul Hewson, I think, is maybe your best bet if you want to read a book about tarot. I'm not saying he's the ultimate expert about everything, but he's very good. He's very good, and he's quite hardworking, and he's a real, tarotist and magician. Yes, that'll be a turn for the better if you buy yourself a Paul Hewson book. CS102, I ordered the book from Yolanda Robinson on the court cards, now on page 14. Good. So far, I love the book. Good. That's another very strong recommendation from me. Anna Heaton, that Saskia says to Anna, that is a good deck. Ooh, lower power mode, ladies and gentlemen. Will we survive till 7 o'clock? 10 more minutes if anyone else wants a reading. Luhi. I think Arthur White, I think you mean Waite, Luhi, had a very large ego and tried to justify his ideas extensively, leaving significant gaps in his explanations. It seems his environment was very competitive, to put it mildly. Yes, well, Arthur Waite was a Victorian or Edwardian gentleman, and I think one of the great charms of Victorian gentlemen, in other words, English gentlemen in the late 19th century, was that they had enormous egos, and they were very good at rushing around and getting things done. Like, for example, co-creating the RWS with Pamela. But I think there's a big issue with A.E. Waite about tarot reading, because he created this, the world's best deck for divination. And then in his book, he keeps on saying, this deck is not suitable for divination. Don't you dare read fortunes with it. Saskia says, I'm afraid I couldn't possibly afford to get 2 decks in case one got damaged. I'm just very careful with my decks. Well, me too. I mean, this wasn't cheap. And I think probably I will live with this for a year or two and then put it on eBay and let someone else enjoy it, because I can't afford to possess, several decks that are all worth €100 or something. I'd rather spend it on dinner. Nayo or Najo photography, etc. Hello, great to catch you. I'm in Memphis, Tennessee in the US. I am a reader myself. Recently bought a Taylor Tarot cards. Wow. Just wondering if you have this deck and what you think. Thank you. Well, I believe there's more than one Taylor, isn't it? Is that the Grand Taylor and the Petite Taylor? I adore it. I haven't got it because because I don't think I could read with it because of the pip cards. But I think probably what I need to do with a Taylor is to get a secondhand one on eBay, just to get a secondhand cheaper edition on eBay for $20 and then just have a proper look at it. Guys, the very interesting thing about tarot decks is that clearly before you buy a deck, you want to look at a flip through on YouTube, because otherwise why would you buy it? But I find when a deck turns up, it's always a completely different experience. When you hold something in your hand and you look at it, you can sort of tell, I'm going to love this or I'm not. And some of the decks I've been most excited to buy, I have unwrapped them and held them in my hands and I thought, I'm never going to use this, or I will force myself to use it, but I'm not going to love it. And some decks kind of sneak up on me and I realize, oh, I really like that deck. Rudran says, your reading on King Charles early in his reign was eerily prescient and spot on. I hope you will do a read on Kate and William's long-term future. Well, I could do. I have to be careful with current affairs readings because I'm a human being and I have I have opinions about politics and public life and so forth. And inevitably those opinions, you know, if information comes through me, it has to come through my mind, doesn't it? So I could do Kate and William, yeah. I mean, the reason, guys, the reason why I sometimes do political, very rarely do political, but I sometimes do current affairs readings is not so much that I want to be in that game, but I want to demonstrate that tarot can be used to help us to work out how we feel about things, and it can help us to pick up knowledge that we sort of have, instinctive knowledge. And I suppose if you're talking about my reading on King Charles, my intuition about him is that he's and I'm not the only, you know, psychic to say this, is that he's not terribly well suited to being a king, and I don't really buy it, you know. I don't really think he's I don't really think he's ideal. But I think I needed to, when I did that video, I was sort of showing you the sort of readings that I sometimes do at home when I want to try to pick up what my intuition about a situation is. And we all live in the real world, and politics is part of that. And of course, there is a temptation to become more political and to ask really big questions. And I did that once about Keir Starmer. And of course, you know, like thousands of clicks. But I was really wrong, you know. And that's the only video I ever had to take down. So I think it's just a dangerous game. The Grande, I believe it's rather tall, lol. I love them as well. They read very well accurately. Big for my hands. I've heard that they read well. You're talking about the Taylor cards. I've heard they do. There was a guy in Watkins, the tarot reader there. He had a chat with him. He said you must try reading with a Taylor. I guess the Taylor has got so much vibes in it, right? I bought it after watching another reader using them on YouTube and found them intriguing. Again, thank you. Anna Heaton says, I bought some decks, really looking forward to them, and then find myself always going back to my trusty RWS. I do like the other decks, just the RWS more. I find myself going back to RWS and Aquarian. Guys, it's 3 minutes. We're nearly finished. Okay, and which tarot card speaks to you the most? By intuition definition, if you have one. Which tarot card? I mean, I actually think the court cards speak to me the most, because in a weird, mad way, I have begun to think of them as spirits, you know, as entities and as intelligences. And, well, the kings are not very chatty, and nor are the queens, and nor are the pages, so it would have to be one of the knights. I suppose the Knight of Pentacles speaks to me the most. That's the card I admire most. And it's not the High Priestess, ladies and gentlemen. It's not her. I find her a bit hidden, the High Priestess. I find her a bit distant, not very approachable. Louis says, some friends gave me the Zodiac Tarot deck. It's fantastic and very interesting because it also assigns planets to the minor arcana. Oh, interesting. Thank you for that. Anna Heaton says, thank you so much for tonight. I really enjoyed being here with you in the group. Right, okay, Anna, it's too late now for any more readings. Does anyone want one of my famous antidepressive cards? There's one word on each card and they're all positive. If yes, give me a number between 1 and 10. And in the next 2-3 minutes, we can stay online and these cards will cheer you up. Nick says 9. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Nick, you get guided. Guided. Cool, Oda. Rudran says 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Rudran, you get wise. And Heaton, 3. 1, 2, 3. And Heaton, you get freedom. Nayo photography, etc. Oh, that's no number there. Sure. Tara unbridled, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. A surprise or surprises. Nick says brilliant. Photography says 6. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You get light-hearted. Arcane Tarot 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Serendipity. Anna Heaton says, I love it. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Any more before we... Oh, CS12 says 3. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Fun. Any more before we pull the plug? I'm being brutal today. I'm going to end fairly punctually because our lodger is cooking us dinner. So thank you all for joining. You've cheered me up. It's been great. I've been freestyle reading. Reversed Ten of Swords. It wasn't a disaster. It wasn't the end of the world, was it? I did quite well. Thank you, everyone. Fantastic live. Thank you, Nick. If there was a clock, it would be chiming 8 because I'm in Germany, or 7 if you're in England, if it was Big Ben. Bravo to you. I'm now going to have a Korean/Japanese dinner cooked by the lodger. So what a reward. I'll be back live streaming in June, but there will always be something happening, some video popping out once a week on the Friday or the Saturday, and there are some lives coming out here and there. So enjoy. Happy reading, everyone. And yes, if anyone finds a good deck, just message me. Bye.